Assassin's Creed Shadows is getting absolutely torched by Japanese players. I'm going to make reference to this article I saw in the Park Place called Japanese Players Excoriate. I've never heard that word before. I learned something new. Ubisoft, after they apologized for creating concern within the Japanese community with Assassin's Creed Shadows. So if you've been following the channel, this game has been getting lit up because of all the, I guess, historical inaccuracy that Ubisoft has been having with this game. The Japanese people made a petition. At this point, it has almost 100,000 signatures. This isn't just a right-wing grift. That's what the wokies will try to push it as. No, these are Japanese gamers, members of the Japanese community that feel that there's a disrespect to their culture. And I feel for them. I honestly do. And they need to keep voicing their concerns. They need to keep coming to all the YouTube channels covering this, put their opinion out there, dislike the videos, let Ubisoft know how you feel. This game ain't going to get canceled. This boycott's asking for it. But it's not because Yasuke is the protagonist that's the problem. And again, people like Alyssa Mercante, who wrote this cringe article just the other day, trying to push it as a right-wing grift narrative that's against this game. That's a whole bunch of mean gamer bros that are racist, and they want to push this Gamergate narrative. The people that are pushing the Gamergate narrative are you guys. You guys that cosplay as journos. You're really political activists. You write all these rage bait articles, and then you get mad when reactionary people make content off of you guys. We had this article from Alyssa Mercante the other day that I just completely roasted and buried and just yuck, right? Disgusting piece of writing. It totally negated all the concerns of the Japanese people. All nearly 100,000 signatures were negated by Alyssa Mercante. And what her article came down to is basically it's a whole bunch of white men that are bad. And that's what it's always about. With people like Alyssa Mercante, it always goes back to white man bad. At the end of the day, that's all they fucking get mad about. That's all they get triggered about is misogyny and white man bad. And then we even covered Stacey Henley's article that essentially said that Ubisoft's statement didn't call out racism. It was just another way of saying it, that they failed to address racism, which is the real problem. So Ubisoft did put out this whole statement right here. That was basically a lot of nothing. There was no I'm sorry. There was no apologies. They came out and said on slide 2 that it's intended to be an entertaining video game that tells a compelling historical fiction set in feudal Japan, that it was never meant to be historically accurate, that it was never meant to be a factual representation, and yeah, basically just tossing aside everything that petition's about. Basically telling them tough shit. We're going to fake stuff, which the whole argument isn't because Yasuke is a black man. That's the issue here. Is it not a good look to have a black guy cutting the heads off of Japanese people to hip hop music? Absolutely. It's not a good look. The problem is that Yasuke's actual historical accurate history is being embellished on because of diversity, because of DEI. That's the only reason why they're doing it. If it was supposed to be a historical setting, if it was supposed to be a historical story, fiction, whatever, why not just make a historical fiction character? A brand new fiction character, a Japanese character at that. The people of Japan are upset because you presented it with actual collaborators. You see right here, they collaborate with external consultants, historians, researchers, and internal teams to inform our creative choices. They literally used Thomas Lockley's book, the guy that wrote all of the stuff about Yasuke, wrote a 400-page article. They literally used it as an official source. They had him on a podcast. They've used all of his information. So what is it? Is this essentially a weird way of admitting that he's not really a samurai, but you're going to make him a samurai anyway to embellish on it? That's the problem, is that Japanese people are offended about that. It has nothing to do with racism. It's not a right-wing, straight white male grift, okay? It's literally going to the Japanese government. It's been talked about by politicians. We've been covering this. Anyways, this apology, or non-apology as I would say, even had a different version for the Japanese people that left out stuff so that the Japanese people wouldn't get offended. I covered it in a previous video. Anyways, it's getting torched. And I looked at this article from the Park Place that showed some screenshots of it getting torched. And these are actual Japanese people. They're literally just disavowing this game. You could see they said, I think the story about Yasuke should just be considered fiction based on Yasuke. The issue of a historical retelling is no longer a UBI issue or Ubi issue, but a Lockley issue. However, Yasuke is no longer the problem. The plagiarism of materials from manga organizations and cultural heritage sites, the misinterpretation of Japanese history, and the misinterpretation of Japanese as Chinese, among other things, show disregard for Japan. The problem is these, and it's showing everything from katana from One Piece to stuff from China, incorrect architecture. You've seen everything in the trailers. There's a lot of stuff here. It seems like they didn't do their proper research, even though they claim to have had historians and other consultants. Okay, it goes beyond just, racism. You're literally getting everything wrong about a culture. And these are Japanese people calling it out. You see, thanks to your company, I was able to become aware of the historical changes being made by the forces of globalization against Japan. Thank you very much. And short end, globalization, that's all these liberal, progressive types that want to put all this weird stuff like hating white people and making stuff progressively woke by the minute. You know, you have to have that DEI injected. You have to have groups like Vanguard and Black Rock and all that. And they don't have any concern for Japan at all. None. Because they didn't even say sorry in the apology or the non-apology. You can see it's so roundabout that I don't know what you're trying to say. And that's exactly right. If you look at all of this, again, it's a lot of nothing. It's a lot of nothing. Now, there's some of these that are just immensely huge. Like, look at this this response right here. And hopefully we can get through this. This individual says, I've played almost all the previous games, but especially love Origins. Origins was a story about Bayek, an Egyptian whose culture and religion are completely different from ours. To be honest, in the beginning of the game, the characters' views on life and death, customs, religious terminology were all foreign to me, and I found many parts difficult to get into. However, as I played the game, these skills naturally came to me, and I felt like I was able to identify with Bayek, who has a completely different cultural background to us. It's a wonderful game. I also believe there's no other work that excels in construction in the world of Egypt at that time. So then they're saying, in the original Famitsu interview, it was written that in order to depict medieval Japan, we were looking for a samurai who could represent us, even though we're not Japanese. I'm very disappointed with this statement. There may be a difference in the nuance of the translation, but I couldn't believe it was coming from the company that made Origins. So they're basically saying the depiction of it was a problem, that it was disappointing for them. They were looking forward to it. And this is a banger comment that still has a whole other paragraph that I can't even do it justice, saying the issues are involved are beyond their ability to handle, so they'll leave that to the experts. But the thing that worries them the most is the fundamental philosophy behind how the world is depicted in the game, which is why they want it to be accurate. You see, I would like to ask the Erd image, an example of creative expression, be clearly written as an example of fiction. Japanese people are tolerant of fiction that deals with historical figures, but are intolerant of anything that is not described as fiction. Please do not underestimate the Japanese people. I mean, this is backlash after backlash on this game, y'all. And this is also not including the Star Wars Outlaws backlash that game's been getting. You know, they say he seems to be apologizing, but he doesn't say anything. This is so sloppy. It's been a long time since I've been so disappointed with something. It's so disrespectful and unpleasant. As a game, there are a lot of problems with it, such as plagiarism. But can't they just be fixed? Thank you for letting me know about the Yasuke problem. I will raise more issues. I think it would be better to sell it without the name Assassin's Creed and with the title The Legend of Yasuke, the story's fiction. For now, I have no intention of buying it. When I read the English version's replies while translating them, I find that many of the opinions make sense. Just change the character to a Japanese one. Just change the name and make it a fictional character. And that's it. They should have just made a game with a Japanese character. But they had to get the ESG points. That's the problem. It's not racism. It's cringe wokeness being shoehorned into stuff. And again, I've said it in the past. It's so sad to see this game tainted by DEI because it looked like it was going to be amazing gameplay mechanical wise. You can see an accurate portrayal of black people who came to Japan would be Johnny Somali and Johnny. By including them in the game, Ubisoft will be able to make it more factual and historically accurate. I highly recommend it as the content will be more suited to a diverse modern audience. So this person's basically just joking about Johnny Somali going to Japan and essentially getting arrested and stuff. So I don't know. This game is just getting completely buried. You got over 98,000 signatures and counting. It'll probably hit 100,000 by this weekend. I mean, if it wasn't affecting them, guys, they wouldn't have had to make a statement. And I've seen woke people go, I can't believe Ubisoft had to come out and tell these right-wing grifters that this is just fake stuff. It's fictional. No, it's easy to say that when you're fucking wokey that doesn't respect other people's cultures. That's the fucking problem. All right? It's so weird that everything has to cater to a small modern audience that doesn't make up a percentage of people that are actually upset about this. Why don't you worry about offending the actual people that are offended by it instead of people that are crying over bullshit? That's the problem. It's not a right-wing grift.